Hello, everyone. Welcome to our presentation today, Tips to Implementing a Value-Add PMO. My name is Heather Champeau, and I am a PPM Practice Director here at Upland Software. I also am one of your webinar presenters for today's presentation. I also have on the line with me Darren McDonald. Darren is one of our Eclipse PPM solution consultants, and he'll also be presenting today the demo portion of our webinar. Before we get started, for those of you who need PDU information, we'll be giving you that information at the conclusion of the presentation today. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. For today's agenda, we'll be covering the following topics. First and foremost, what is a PMO and what is its purpose? We'll then look at several reasons why you might want to consider setting up a PMO. And related to that, we'll look at common PMO challenges, PMO maturity levels, and a few PMO critical success factors. For example, what should you have in place now? What should you have in place down the road in order to increase the probability of PMO success? We'll also look at a PMO roadmap from initiation through to the operational state of a PMO. And then finally, Darren will walk us through a demo of capabilities that should be leveraged when setting up and managing a PMO. So let's get into the details. If you look at the PMBOK definition, a project management office, also abbreviated to PMO, is a group, department within a business, or any other organizational structure that defines and maintains standards for project management within the organization. PMOs are put in place to standardize and introduce economies of repetition in the execution of projects. So the idea is to consistently and repetitively execute projects right. Of course, right can mean many things as well, but in this context, we're talking about the basic PM principles of managing projects within budget, on time, of high quality, and within given constraints such as project resources. That being said, I like to extend the definition a bit and include the ability to aid organizations in not only doing projects right, but also selecting the right projects. This helps organizations achieve their strategic objectives. Because all PMOs are different, some PMOs may not be involved in the project selection process and may only come into play within project execution, and that's fine. We'll address both through the webinar today. So now we're combining the doing projects right concept with the doing the right projects concept, and therefore we've added the portfolio management aspect to the definition, and we're no longer focusing on just execution. Bottom line, no two PMOs are exactly alike. The exact PMO definition will most likely vary across the board from organization to organization, but the end goal is almost always the same, more effective project and portfolio management. That being said, the key business process requirements are typically the same as well. So why would an organization want to set up a PMO? I thought it would be helpful to take a look at the survey results from a study that Forrester and PMI published in 2011. They actually asked 217 PMO professionals who have their PMOs located within the IT or IS group, what is the focus of your PMO? As you can see, although all areas, there are some areas actually that were consistent across most of the PMO leaders. Many areas vary in focus priority across the board. In this same study, the PMO leaders were also asked how they measure PMO effectiveness. 51% said they measure through achieving business objectives through delivered projects. 49% said customer or stakeholder satisfaction. 47% said schedule and budget performance, and 21% said successful resource allocation. Believe it or not, there was also an additional 24% that said that the value of their PMO business wasn't measured at all, and that's very common. We see that very often across organizations. Point is, once again, no two PMOs are exactly alike. So whether you're building a PMO to establish standardization, better align strategic objectives with project delivery, or whether you're building a PMO to execute on projects more successfully in general, the guiding principles will always be found under the PPM umbrella. So improving project portfolio management in one way, shape, form, or another. So let's look at some of the reasons why organizations may want or need to set up a PMO. The idea of wrapping your arms around and improving project success rates is a common reason for organizations to lean towards PMO development, whether it be improving project outcomes over time, gaining project portfolio visibility, getting projects off on the right foot, or increasing project delivery successes. Improving the overall success of an organization's project portfolio is an objective worth investing in for most project-heavy organizations. As many of the project managers on the line know, communication is absolutely crucial. Trying to create some standardization around project communication, status updates, progress, etc. Think of our organizations today and how cross-matrix we are. We have people from different departments all working on multiple projects. Trying to gather that information and share it in a meaningful way, and then on top of that with accuracy, is something many organizations aspire to do. In addition, the amount of rework or other dollars spent because stakeholders are on a different page and not working towards the same common shared understanding can be detrimental to the business. So establishing regular metrics is also valuable to keep everyone on the same page. These metrics may include cost variance, schedule variance, portfolio impact, resource consumption for non-project work also shows stakeholders the progress. So keeping everybody on the same page is key so that everyone can manage and visually see the ongoing progress of cost, risk, etc. of all their investments. Resource management and the data required to support it may also be a driver for your organizations. We must be able to forecast resource demand for new projects, but new projects are not really the primary source of labor spending in today's world, believe it or not. So it's very important that we're able to analyze not only new project demand, but other operational work such as service requests, IT requests, and non-project work. So resource management is definitely a key focus for many PMOs. PMOs can use frameworks such as the PMBOK or the Project Management Body of Knowledge, as well as agile methodologies to influence how their organizations deliver on their projects. Many can apply those methods within these frameworks to provide consistency in planning and executing on projects and work. Combined with other standards, templates, and best practices, PMOs can create repeatable processes for implementing projects successfully and consistently. Depending on the organization and even the organization's industry, organizations may have regulations that need to be managed and adhered to, such as a couple of examples would be Sarbanes-Oxley or HIPAA for healthcare. In many cases, organizations require early indication of budget deviations between planned spend and actuals to stay ahead of potential financial risk. Any visibility into cash flow analysis to increase the accuracy of IT investment decisions will aid in not only reducing spend, but also preventing cost overages in the long run. So today's PMO challenges. So many PMO leaders understand and know that project failure can bring enormous pressure to a PMO. In addition to that, every stakeholder has different needs and different wants, right? So you've got the executives who want to ensure that the right projects are being done and that there's alignment with strategic objectives. You've got team members who are demanding efficient tools and simple processes that can help them deliver on tasks more easily. And then you have PMs who want tools that give them more insight into some of the critical data that's being input into systems into their projects so that they can make better decisions and more accurately. And not only that, but with agility. All the while, project budgets, for some reason, continue to decrease. And executive management is not likely to throw more resources at departments that are underperforming, which could potentially be the PMO. And so PMOs can find themselves in a vicious cycle. There are a few of the common challenges that many PMO leaders face today. I'll give you an idea of some of them now. As with any good idea. The project management concept must be sold to the organization. So if you're looking at each stakeholder that is represented under the PMO, you have to answer the question, what's in it for me? If you can do that for every stakeholder, that'll be a good place to start. That'll also make sure that you don't miss any requirements. Organizational maturity and alignment are two of the biggest factors because all users work differently. They leverage different tools, they report to different people, they follow different processes. They even fall at different maturity levels. It's difficult to implement a one PMO fits all approach. This area and this challenge is commonly addressed by tools and technology. We'll get into tools and technology a little bit later in the presentation. The ability to collaborate amongst projects teams is absolutely critical. Most of the project managers on the line understand that. If the team can't have a shared understanding of requirements, communication, and status, the PMO will be destined to fail, and we don't want that. Lack of project ownership and executive buy-in can prevent project progress and limit PMO growth and success overall. So make sure you have a good leader and that everyone knows and understands their role to ensure the most optimal results. This is a slide that represents Forrester's outline of PMO maturity. I thought it was important because maturity is important to a PMO's success. No matter where you fall in the spectrum, you must plan on progressing as you move forward, so moving up the curve. A value-add PMO provides more value the more mature it is. Upon PMO startup, it's very common for PMOs to be at the lowest level of maturity, and therefore they're disconnected from the project selection process. This prevents 100% alignment to strategic objectives. You can see that level at the far left. Most PMOs that have been underway for a while fall in the center of this chart, the moderately mature PMO. They prioritize the high visibility projects, but other projects are not prioritized. You've probably heard this many times before. Have you ever heard a PMO say, well, we only manage projects that are over 1 million in project budget or that have 400 resources or more, right? So it's very common for PMOs to have specific criteria as to what projects they'll manage and which ones they won't. This can lead to several issues such as executing on no or low value projects, partial alignment with business objectives, and incomplete portfolio visibility overall. In the more mature PMOs, project implementation is flexible. It's multiple methodologies are supported. All work is prioritized regardless of project visibility. Standards are implemented across the board to build repeatable processes and project delivery best practices. Once again, build a PMO roadmap that will keep your PMO progressing up in maturity. Let's take a look now at a few critical success factors as a start. All PMOs aspire to become a value-add PMO. Nowadays, though, too many of them are unable to break away from bureaucratic methods, right? Drowning in process overkill, drowning in documentation overload. A value-add PMO is able to drive portfolio change while removing barriers that may prevent successful delivery. I highlight that statement because it's very important. It's very easy for us to get wrapped up in the old PMO structure that was founded on administrative processes. That PMO is outdated. So it's important for PMOs to be agile and flexible. We have to kind of move with the way of the world, the way everything happens within our organization. And so flexibility is key. We have to provide teams with the tools and support they need to work the way they work best. That will allow, everyone to be empowered, which brings across efficiency and creativity and productivity. So keep that in mind. Even though PMOs are built for standardization of processes, etc., being flexible, there has to be a good balance in there. As well. So let's get into the first success factor. Building a PMO that fits company culture. So organizational structure does matter. whether your organization is projectized, matrix, or functional. Determine what delivery methods and processes work best for your company's culture, and then standardize them. Committed executive sponsorship is critical to a PMO's success, just as it is a project's success. If you don't designate an executive champion, there may be no sense in moving forward simply because you'll be fighting an uphill battle. PMOs, in many cases, whether we like it or not, simply lack the authority and visibility to work beyond a narrow frame of reference. In order to bring change to the organization, it's a really good idea to have the PMO report directly to executive leadership. This executive leadership support gives the PMO authority to enforce changes as well as accountability for supporting practices that drive company success. Many organizations now leverage communities of practice and governance teams to continuously evolve their standards and best practices. There could be multiple names for this. Steering board, steering committee, communities of practice, all of those terms are popular terms. This gives the PMO members accountability and say into how projects are run. In the old day, it was just training, right? You would have a team that would define your PMO, your processes, your standards, and then you would train everybody. But training won't get you where you need to be. And following the same processes year after year won't increase PMO value, okay? The new way is more of a social structure, right? So knowledge share, finding your internal experts, team participation. Those will all help you ensure that all best practices are communicated, shared, and standardized. If one particular team member has a better way of doing things, it's good to hear those ideas from all of the different team members that are involved. So those steering committees are highly recommended. Most successful PMOs don't rely on their own team alone to bring project value to the organization. We mentioned earlier that some PMOs only address or manage particular projects. So you must bring the business into the loop and provide business stakeholders with tools, processes, and business direction so that they can be successful within their own projects and work. So even though the PMO might not be able to manage every project with an organization, they can certainly impact them. It's very easy to miss a critical aspect of an organization's portfolio. If one project or initiative is invisible, it can mean big impacts on the company's success. So when developing a PMO, ensure that all users are considered. Include the work they manage and the processes they use to manage that work as well. Don't risk missing a critical piece of your portfolio because certain stakeholders or departments were not considered upfront. Define all your stakeholders. Ensure you're providing tools and processes to support them. Again, asking that question, what's in it for me? As we've mentioned before, PMOs must constantly justify their value to garner sustained support for the structure and the processes needed to do project planning and delivery. So when you define critical project KPIs and you publish them, the PMOs can demonstrate that the organization is reaching portfolio objectives, or maybe you're not reaching objectives, and therefore it's good to see that as well, right? Maybe it's due to poor project support. Maybe your executive sponsor is no longer buying into the process. So focus on common metrics to provide these KPIs to the team and keep everybody on target and within the same shared understanding. It could be KPIs such as budget, timeline, resource allocations, change, issues, risk, etc. Formalize your project manager's career path and opportunity for growth. I typically have people question this one a little bit, but this attracts excellence to your PMO. It builds credibility within business leaders and executive management, and you need as much support and credibility as you can possibly get to make a PMO successful. This is my favorite one. So implementing the right tools to support your PMO is one of the most critical success factors overall. If you look at the previous bullets and the previous success factors I just listed, they all require a proper tool to implement them efficiently. Make sure that it doesn't take more time to actually manage a project than it does to actually get the work done. I'm sure many of you have heard that before. We're going to show you a simple PPM application shortly that was developed to help organizations get up and running now with their current processes and then mature as they grow. So showing value quickly for a PMO is critical to keep executive buy-in and support. Maybe, for example, you start in IT or you start in a particular department, you prove the value of the PMO, and then you grow to other departments as the value is perceived. So let's take a look at an example PMO roadmap. What might that look like? Again, let's think of this more as a full project and portfolio lifecycle versus just project execution. The roadmap on your screen, different stages, it's a very high level roadmap. But I wanted to give you a place to start. So step one is justification initiation. What are the business drivers behind this endeavor? Where are we starting from? What measures will we use to show improvement? We can then take that information and parle it into a business plan, which will lay out all of those things, right? What are we doing? What our goals are? How we'll show our progression towards those goals, etc. You also need to get a sponsor on board. Again, that executive buy-in, someone who can buy into that business case. Again, many times the PMO doesn't have the authority needed to implement change alone, and you need that executive stakeholder involved. We spoke about selling the plan earlier in the presentation. Every good idea must be sold, right? Starting by documenting the what's in it for me answer for every stakeholder role that will be involved. As you leave stage one, you'll move into the planning stage. There may be a little bit of overlap between the two stages, and that's fine. You'll want to identify who your project manager or project managers are for implementing the PMO. What is the governance model for the PMO? In other words, what does the mandate, authority, and organizational structure look like for your PMO? You want to put a roadmap in place such that distinct and progressive deliverables are present as you move forward toward your goal of implementing your PMO. And ultimately, you need to secure the required funding and staffing for your rollout. As you move into execution, you'll want to document your current processes alongside of the process that you would like to see in the future. So where are we now process-wise, and how would we like to do those processes in the future? What tools will we be supporting these processes? Documenting this within some strong procedural guides which illustrate how your processes and tools function together will be the next step. And then finally, deploy your processes and tools in tandem while training your staff with these together as one solution. You'll then be ready to transition into the operational phase. You will now commence with delivering those defined services. You'll start to get feedback as you roll out, and you should also make certain you continue to coach the various roles that have been affected. Along the way, do not forget to capture the metrics. We referred to those earlier. In order to show progress toward defined goals, metrics are critical. So with that, I'd like to jump into the capabilities and software portion of today's webinar. Before I hand it over to Darren, though, for a PMO software demo, I'd like to go ahead and introduce Upland software. Upland is a leading provider of cloud-based enterprise work management software. Our family of applications connect people through technology, automate the flow of work, and we bring visibility to all aspects of the organization. We have more than 1,200 enterprise customers around the globe and over 200,000 users. We help teams in IT, marketing, finance, professional services, and process excellence, which is where our PMOs fall, to run their operations smoothly, adapt to change quickly, and achieve better results. Eclipse PPM is Upland's project portfolio management application that offers a simplified approach to PPM. This allows businesses to get up and running quickly within their current processes and then mature gradually as they grow. Aligning with many of the benefits of setting up a PMO, Eclipse PPM helps organizations understand project demand, focus on the right projects, deliver those projects successfully through centralization and standardization, and gain visibility into all resources across the organization and across all work and projects. And with that, I'll hand it over to Darren for a quick Eclipse PPM demo, and then Darren will hand it back to me, and we will go over a closing slide. I'll give you your PDU information, and I'll also give you some information of next steps if you'd like to learn more.